All right.
Yes.
It is Friday, and we are fired up.
It is Good Friday.
It is Good Friday, and we are good and fired up.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go. So, this is Rick at Studio USA with my man, Wayne.
There we go. Ready to go.
Yes, and we've got a dynamic duo here.
Yes.
We've got Russ and Bishoy from BRAY Real Estate.
Bishoy is not with.
Not yet.
He is an RP person.
Yeah.
But
Oh, okay. All right. So, our RP, our real producer spotlight today is Bishoy Iskandar.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Ooh, I had to backpedal there. All right. Whoop. That's why it's live.
but things do happen. I just have to
Yes.
throw that out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all working towards the greater good.
That is correct. Namaste.
Yes. I love it. So, first off, I'm going to do, how's everybody doing? Good?
Good. Ready.
Any plans for Good Friday?
Kids, and kids.
You got what, 5?
Yeah. 5. Yeah.
Well, I believe you're taking up the slack for me at 0.
There you go. Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
So first off, I'm going to hit my magic mind. So I'll be like roughly. Do you want one? Anybody want one? It's a matcha tea shot.
It's amazing.
That looks good.
Ooh.
I will be 17% Sparner
Yes. There we go.
shortly. So today we're doing a combination gimmick where it is a hybrid of. We're going to talk about good culture on Good Friday. And first off, what does that mean? Because like there are different things. There would be the culture. So being that we're focused on business, it's a learning process. So I tend to build a plane in midair. And so I've learned a lot of things, most things, the hard way.
Yeah.
So
We have a high pain tolerance.
I could take an ass whipping.
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, I can do it wrong for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. So for you guys, what do you think is like the foundation layer for good culture?
I think that's all you, Russ. You got the shirt and everything.
Yeah, I do. Be kind. It's
Merch.
really not that hard. Good culture, you talk about the business aspect of it, and that's where our minds all go because of what we do.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer that business and life and lifestyle should not be different. And we were just talking about that at the doorway when we were coming in, that interaction even this morning, and understanding that being kind does not mean being passive, and how that plays into the business aspect of it. But it's lifestyle and relational over always being transactional to me.
I love it.
Yeah.
How about our RP Spotlight guest?
Yeah.
It's mainly like a reflection of your, as you said, lifestyle, like what you do at home, how you work with family, how you do with kids. It reflects on your business. It reflects of how you're dealing with clients. And it's just, they're all, overlap, and it just shows to everybody, like, how you deal with everybody. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, if we're talking about in the realm of work too, I think one of the missing pieces is we kind of, or at least a lot of leaders I work with, but I find that sometimes we hallucinate that people should just know what our good culture is, or should know how to act, or should know whatever. So I think there is an element of like teaching people how to think, and like teaching mindsets, teaching what does resourcefulness look like, what does integrity look like, what does responsibility, what does taking responsibility actually look like. So I think a lot of times we hire these people, and sometimes we don't teach them some of the foundational like mindsets or attributes or whatever you want to call them that kind of make us. Because I think we kind of assume people have some of that stuff, and we really need to almost parent them sometimes to go, here's what doing something the right way actually looks like.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And like both of you guys in the middle there are in that mentor kind of like coaching thing. Now, was that by nature, or because I'm finding out now, again, workaholic bachelor, ex-wife, no kids. It's like, I actually like having a pack of young dudes that work for me and mentoring and all of that.
Yeah.
Where now, was that thrust upon you, or did you actually just naturally gravitate towards that?
I mean, in my case, like, hey, you sell a bunch of real estate, you should start a team. And I'm like, that sounds great, right? Like, this will be fun, right? Start a team, it'll be fun, whatever. And then you start a team, and then you're like, holy cow, just because I can, like, sell some real estate and, like, talk for 5 minutes every once in a while, like, does not mean that I should be leading other human beings. So for me, it's kind of like, oh, this sounds great. And then you're like, this is a whole nother world that nobody really taught me how to do this well. So it was kind of thrust upon me. I mean, I found my way through it, but I didn't like wake up one day and be like, I think that I should, be in charge of other people's happiness, which is not what it is, but that's kind of what I thought it was. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, it's my job to, 100 lessons.
And I could go 180 degrees from that. having lived longer than the combined age of many of you here.
Oh, you can't be that far ahead of me.
And I'm not, but I was being kind.
Okay.
See how that works out?
Oh, he is living the game. Okay, so that is on brand.
It actually was a one day waking up and realizing it's what I'm doing is not working. And if you keep looking at, well, I went to this seminar and I hired this coach, and it's just not real for me. So you had to figure out, or I had to figure out and take ownership that probably a lot of my failures were self-imposed by not looking inside and realizing what I am at home is not what I am when I walk outside the door. So you can't be a rock star in your front yard unless you're first real in your backyard. So I just married them together.
There's the quote of the day. There
Yeah,
we go.
clip that.
But that's how mentorship came to be for me, realizing people had really poured into me, wanted me to be successful, whatever your definition of success is. And that's why I'm where I am now at BRAY, because mentorship is such a huge part. We're one of the only brokerages I know of that require it. It's not an option. You're a new agent, you're required to be in mentorship. 10 weeks of a playbook and you're not out of it until you've completed at least 3 transactions. And it's pouring into those people so that they don't fall. I don't like the word fail, so that they don't fall.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, for our youngest team member this morning.
It just, learning and giving out to the community, giving out to the new agents, teaching them how to do things, collaborate. It's not about, I can't succeed by myself. I have to learn from others. I have to teach others, and I'm finding it's way easier to just give out more than trying to keep everything to myself. So being kind naturally will help myself to succeed and others to succeed. So
He just nailed it. You can't succeed by yourself in any business or any way in life. We're a community. We're a tribe. Exactly.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of the tribal aspect of things.
Yeah.
And to realize, like the guys that I do mentor or the guys like in recovery that I would ever talk to with, it's like, look, dude, I realize you want to be a solo artist and you want, everybody kind of loves that, like, I'm a self-made whatever. And it's like, that's never true.
No.
Never.
And the idea that, first off, even if you want to be the solo artist or whatever, you're not going to outdistance or outthink or outperform a million years of biology where we are tribal animals. There's no getting away from that. It's like you either sit by the fire and you collaborate on the hunt, or you go sit in the dark and let's see how that goes for you, But again, that was a learned behavior for me. And so let's tie it into Good Friday. Let's see here. What do we got? GPT says team building that works. Describe innovative and effective team building activities. So now I would take that is, do you pre-sort for your folks, or do you just kind of see who shows up and brush them off and see if they fit?
Man, I think what I don't understand that question. What do you mean? Hit me again.
So, for example, if I were to put, which I have many times, hey, photographer, videographer needed on Indeed.com.
Right.
It ends up being like this cattle call, and it becomes this balancing act of I got 347 people that ostensibly want to be a part of the team. Yeah. Now, how do I filter? What do I do now? You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of it turns out for me, just to bring it back to how I've done it, and it's purely by accident, is we hang out.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is come by the studio, hang out, see what we do, see how you fit with the guys. Because last night I'm at UTD talking to, super young dudes about being an intern. And a big part of that was they came in just anxious, just freaked out, and me just trying to reverse engineer well, okay, you're in this program. This is what you want to do, isn't it? And how do you do that without freaking them out and pushing them away, but also filtering for, is it a good fit? So I'm curious as to you guys do you what is it? Hire, slow, fire,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hire, slow, fire, fast. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me, and there's a lot to it. I think the hiring process really is important. I think most people kind of wing that, and they make a lot of mistakes. So with my clients, we have a really defined hiring process they go through. Yet all that aside, there's three things I'm really looking for in any hire, right? Like, I'm less concerned about their job experience. I'm more concerned about these three things. Are they hungry, humble, and smart? And I think that hunger is like something you either kind of have or you don't. But then the humble part is like hungry. You gotta have some drive, right? We all need help sometimes. But then the humble part is like, for me, it's coachable. Like, do they want to learn? Are they willing to have a tough conversation? Do they actually want to improve? And then smart is like emotional intelligence. So I'm looking for that stuff more than I'm looking for how do they think, how do they process, how do they make decisions. That for me is huge. More than how much skill they have in that one job yet. So that's for me.
Cultural awareness is real important for me too. We came out of that 2-year period of, I've been watching network news. We came out of it about a 2-year period of just being locked away, and you would have thought humanity would have called for, give me a hug, I'm so glad to be around people. I haven't found that to be true. It's kind of like a snake coming out of a pit in the spring. Let's just bite at everything. So I think it's real important. He talks about the coachability. Do they listen? Do they learn? Are they smart? Now, smart's so subjective. my direction as well. Do they listen? Do they have compassion? And back to the whole thing about passion about what they do. And that's through an interview process. You know the person, not so much about what they know about the business, whatever it is. That is teachable, as long as they listen and have a passion to learn it. And then can they communicate what they've learned?
Right on. So do you guys do that sort of thing? Like, okay, now you learn this, now you teach the next guy. You learn this. So like the idea of, I've always had the thing of being forced to teach somebody is a great way to figure out whether or not you know it. And second only to being forced to sell something, because if you are forced to basically eat what you kill, and you have to sell it, well then you're going to learn it. But so for Bishoy,
So, I have a lot of experience about hiring, and because I came from corporate background, I used to work. I graduated from Florida State University, computer science degree. I worked, for Fortune 100 companies. So I remember right before, like 1 semester before graduation, I had an interview with General Motors here in Austin. I was in Florida, but they were hiring in Austin. And I did the interview. The first interview was all about, the personality, how, communicating, what's your background and all of that. And then I was waiting for that second interview about, your skills, your technical skills and all of that. All of a sudden, I get a call and be like, you're hired. I'm like, wait a second. So we're not doing that technical interview. They were like, no, we are looking for the personality more than anything. If you're just like you said, like you're hungry, you're teachable, you're going to work in a team, you're going to be good in a team. That's all we really care about. And once we get in, they hired a lot of college kids. At the time, they were opening like innovation centers all across the country, and they were like bringing back the outsourced, from overseas to U.S. And we got in, and it was just a young culture. We learned from each other. Everybody have the, different, technical skills, but it was all like the new blood that came in. Yeah. So it was all about the personality more than
And that's so huge. And I think one of the things, and I see this with real estate. I coach a lot of real estate teams, so that's kind of my frame of reference when we talk about this. But a lot of real estate teams, they somebody comes in for an interview, they ask them maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then they get excited about the prospect and they start selling the team.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, oh my gosh, you'd be so right. We do this, and we and it's like all of a sudden they're in like sales mode, and they asked like 3 questions. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, what are you doing? So like you said, that first interview has got to be like, tell me about your highs and lows.
Yep.
Right. When's the time that you loved working with somebody? When's the time you hated working with somebody? What, hey, if you have too much on your plate, how do you go about deciding what you're going to tackle? Like, I want to know how they think, right? Exactly. I want to know their history. I want to know how they think. Exactly. Like we said the other day, like, I want to know, did you have a job in high school? Because like almost every driven person I've ever worked with had some sort of job in high school, right? Like they had a paper route or whatever, basic, whatever they did, some kind of hustle, yeah. So like you said, like the thinking piece is so critical, because I can teach them a skill, you know what I mean? But like, can they think? Do they like people? Are they humble? Do they have integrity? Like, if they have that stuff, we can do all the skill stuff. But I tell you what, if they don't have humility, and they don't have integrity, there's like only God teaches those two things. You know what I mean? Like that's like I'm not going to give that to him.
Yeah.
I could try.
You know, Bishoy and I met, we actually saw each other at a Real Producer event. And then we ran into each other accidentally about 2 weeks later, both of us. He was coming in for a closing. I was going out from a closing. And it was an aha moment and big smiles. And we just talked, and I looked at him and said, I want to hear your story. There's just something about you. I want to hear your story. So we met for coffee, and this is the depth of this person, because what he did was we sat down over a cup of coffee, and before we began, he said, I need to ask you one question before we start talking. Do you remember what the question was?
No.
He said, have you ever been to bed hungry? Can you imagine that being the opening statement to I want to hear your story?
Wow.
And he looks at me and says, have you ever been to bed hungry? And it was a deep dive into my life, my culture before he shared his.
Wow.
Yep.
Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Back home, Egypt. Just started, humble, background, but I had my high and lows, and then I came here, went to school, and here I am. Started work for corporate for some time and get into real estate just because it's a passion for me. I wanted to do it for myself, and all of a sudden it started to become people asking me, "Oh, help me with this, help me with that," and then it became like a wildfire for me. So here I am.
Okay, so let's back the truck up there. So culture. Was there a culture shock coming from? So how old were you? Yeah. So how old were you?
I came by myself when I was 18 years old. Wow. Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so at 18 years old, I was semi-functional, I suppose. But it's okay, so how does that work? How do you get from? So do you just wake up one day and it's I'm going to go to Florida for college, or?
It was. It had a. Yeah. It was. I needed to, I always felt like there is something missing, I was hungry I was just there is some piece, I can't succeed here. There is some going on back home with the culture and, religious and all of that. So I needed to get out and be free and explore life and, just get myself back. And I couldn't get there back home at the time. So I came here, went to school, started working odd jobs at first, and then went to school on my own, put myself in Florida State University, graduated, and, before I even graduated, a whole semester before graduation, I had a job offer with Fortune 100 companies and went from there.
Okay, okay, so now I feel less than, as far as it's I have so many people that are around, because it's I fully admit I have princess problems, and it's it is just ridiculous, the stuff that I'll get twisted and wrapped around the axle for. But so culturally there, I'm curious now.
That he actually answered your question better than Wayne and I did, because he has lived it, and now he is giving it back.
Right.
So that first question was, this is me, share about you, that's mentorship. And then how do we get both lifted up? That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And now I'm fascinated for just a multitude of reasons of okay, so you come to the United States at 18. So was it something that you saw where you wanted to be I don't know the background as far as were there no opportunities for entrepreneurship, or?
Yeah, I was in college at the time, just 1 year in college, but there was
in college in Egypt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just for 1 year, and there is not much opportunity. Maybe I was over, passionate about doing way more than at the time. Egypt had changed the last, I would say 10 years, but at the time things were different. It was very hard. I would be very honest, being even, young student, certain religions are kind of hard to deal with. So it was I just felt like I need to get out and feel the freedom, whatever, it's all about, in US, it's all about what you put in, you get out, right? The more you work, the more you gain, the more you get out of it. And that's how it's been. It's kind of a little hard over there in that aspect. So I felt like, I needed that to feel that freedom here. So that's.
Oh, and I love the fact that the minute you saw daylight and ran towards it,
Yep.
it was everything started to stack up,
Yep.
And because I believe the universe rewards effort, regardless of whatever your background is or whatever your belief system is. There is something about suiting up and showing up. And I think the culture, like, kind of, we were talking earlier about, like, if you're not early, you're late.
Yep.
And there's a certain element where you can't teach that. It's like it can be learned by osmosis, and it can be incorporated based on, what is it? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. But I love the fact that each one of y'all had that sort of internal drive, and then his is just like writ large, where it's like, okay, and this is what it looks like when it really, really plays out. But now for you guys that are in the sort of the driver's seat of, how do you get somebody that is willing to suit up and show up, but to keep that going? And then I'm curious too on like y'all's team building or how that works for you guys, as far as, because I can need all the help I can get in the team building arena.
Yeah. I think that is, and you'll probably have a more insightful answer. Yeah, from my vantage point, it's like, how do I facilitate some of these learnings proactively instead of reactively? And I think there's a lot of it that's done very reactively, which is like, you screwed up, now I'm here to teach you what you did wrong. You know what I mean? And so much of it, at least in my experience, was so reactive. You know what I mean? And so now one of the things I do is like, I've actually written like, hey, here's different exercises I want you to do with your team to teach blank. Here's some of the, here's ways to teach this mindset. And then like you said, I'm going to teach the team twice, and then, hey, Joe, next time you're teaching it. Jeff, next time you're teaching this one. So then getting them to teach it. But I think one thing that COVID taught us was how much we were doing just by rubbing elbows, and then when we weren't together all the time, how much our culture and everything else kind of drifted away. And we had to get much more intentional about building that and keeping that in my perspective. So I think it's just really getting not just haphazard, but really strategic and intentional about building these things, teaching these things proactively, and not just hoping people kind of catch up with it along the way. Yeah,
I think it's real important, or what we do is we realize that, and I'll put it on a dollar and cents perspective, a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing. It's just so much better to be successful as a tribe where everyone made a little bit, rather than to have great persona on social media, but you're a failure at everything. You've really done nothing other than you've mastered social media presence. At the end of the day, Daddy liked to eat, and it's like he said, I don't like going to bed hungry. So I will farm out all day long, and that's part of the tribe building is, that's not my specialty, and it's not yours. But let's look at the tribe who is the one that has that specialization.
Who, not how.
And let's share.
Yeah.
And that's the unique part of mentoring is, am I going to pour into one to make them a rock star? Or am I going to work with 20, 30, 50, 70, 90 that is the collaborative, all becomes successful?
Yeah.
And that's successful mentorship to me, is learning to share.
Yeah.
So now, again, for me, that has been learned behavior, because I had this weird combination of imposter syndrome coupled with like this death grip, which I used to call, that's quality control.
Yeah, I quoted that right. Yeah.
When in reality, it was just anxiety coupled with imposter syndrome that ended up where I had everything in a headlock, and I was afraid to let anybody be like, here, you take over this aspect of X. When in reality, kind of going back to the tribal thing, it's better to have 3 or 4 people that can do 70 to 80% of what I can do versus me just trying to crank 100% all day, every day, because the diminishing returns.
But I think that's where a coach comes in, right? It's like, it's kind of like helping your kid ride the bike. You don't just go like, hey, you should ride your bike if you're whatever it is, and send him out to the street, right? Well, some of you did, love you. Right? Like, come on back, we'll do it again, right? But like for us, it's like, it is scary to let go of stuff, right? So I think we have this mindset of like, just let it go, right? Be a good business owner. But like somebody's like, okay, we're gonna lift the training wheels up a little bit. All right, what if you gave just this away? Oh, you survived that, okay? Right? You're scared of this? Okay, what's are you actually scared of? Okay, let's instead of treating it just like, oh, you just have faith, go for it. It's like, no, let's walk through this together. And I think the coach, the mentor is there to kind of help you go, okay, let's just do this. What if we did this? Okay, now you can, right? So it's like helping someone do that. Instead of them having to learn it all by trial and error, right? So we can help collapse time by guiding someone through that process instead of having to do it all on our own.
And you said taught or learned. I had a grandmother with a fly swatter. There were a lot of things that were actually taught and instilled
Yeah.
through a little bit of pain.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what coaching versus mentorship comes down to, too. There's a lot of hand-holding at the very beginning, but like Wayne just said, knowing when to set them loose and realize, okay, you fell out of the nest, you lived through it, let's jump up there and try it again. Without constantly beating them down, because then you have that circular pattern of the doors open, somebody came in, they went out. No one wants that. I'd
That's
rather
exhausting.
have 5 people walk in and 4 be successful than 5 people walk in and only 1 left at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's hard, isn't it? Because
It's
like
very hard.
I think the other part is like you can only do so much.
When do you spank him? When do you hug?
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. When do you spank and when do you hug? And the other piece of it is like you don't really get to take full credit, right? Because if I take full credit, then it's 100% my fault when somebody fails too, right? So part of it's
Right.
like I'm gonna do my very best, but when you win, like that's because you did it, not because of me, right? And when you lose, it's like that's also I mean I want to get better, but like I can't take full credit for every win. Right, you know what I mean? Because some people aren't going to do it, and I think that's the tough part. Is you love people, you pour into them. Sometimes I wasn't ready to be the coach they needed. Sometimes they weren't in position. They need to learn it hard a little bit longer. But I think if you want to really be a coach and mentor, it's not easy. You got to be willing to go like, I think, I cried because Dave failed, and I take that really personal, whatever that stuff is.
Right. Well, and kind of like what Russ said, where we live in this age of perception management.
Yeah.
Where as long as it looks like the thing, it's the thing. And that is the furthest from the truth.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I know a lot of folks that have mastered that aspect of it. And then it's like, huh. And, I try to, because all of my guys are in their 20s.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have no idea what I would be like if I was a digital native, if I was raised in the Matrix, basically.
Right.
But there's that tendency of, if they're at this place, that means that they earned their way there. That then it's like, oh no, they're just there with their phone and they took a photo. So there's an aspect of trying to get folks to be authentic in a world where it's like,
Very true. Yep.
Very hard
Authentic
to
and
do.
transparent. Wayne, you were ringing my bells. When you said, I cried,
Yeah.
did you cry?
Yeah.
And did you let them know you cried?
would you get Russ's?
I don't think I let him know that I cried.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was like, there's the mystery element. So like, just tuck that in the little
I was wondering what that noise was. There we go.
Maybe that'll help.
Problem
We need-
solved.
We need a piece of scotch.
So would that be a problem if you were mentoring and coaching, that they knew you were that vulnerable to their success?
No, I think it'd probably be, yeah. No, I think that'd be great. Yeah.
I would trust you more.
Yeah.
See, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's like I said, he rang bells. He won my heart.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, then you guys can.
We had a bonding moment.
We did. We
I
did have
love
a
it. I
body
love
moment.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
And so now,
I liked this guy before I got here, so now we're in for life.
so that actually goes to my overlying philosophy of everything in this little universe that we're in, where it's like, I want what's on the label to match what's in the can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they see whatever the public facing persona is or whatever, and then they actually meet that person in person, it's like, oh, you're the guy from the thing,
Yeah.
where it matches versus, wait a minute, you're like this weird, strange robotic person in real life, but on camera, you seemed so genuine and different. But it's one of those things where, again, that was learned behavior because I had to get over the anxiety of, and the kicker for me was nobody cares. Really, at the end of the day, like, I had this imposter syndrome and I had this death grip on everything. And at the end of the day, if do the best you can with what you got in that moment and take it from there, and then just, like you said earlier, we can take an ass whipping. It's like, okay, well then that is sometimes or often the price of admission, and just being okay with that, rather than thinking like, oh, you're going to immediately to the winner's circle, and there's not going to be any bruises or whatever. There's no Rocky cut scene, where you're pushing the thing uphill in the snow. And now, how do you get folks? I'm assuming that is one of the things y'all deal with too, on in the macro as far as people go. How do you get folks to break out of that, almost like self-conditioning?
Yeah.
Go back to him. You just said, do the best with what you have.
Yeah.
Why? Why can't I have that too? And he's the one that saw there is something over there. Why can't I have that too? And that's what a good coach, a good mentor does, is the limit is where you put it.
Yeah.
If you're saying, this is all I have, I'm going to work with it, then you've set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
His story's perfect. He saw something bigger, he wanted it, he went and got it.
I love
and
it.
now he's looking for something else, and he's going to get it. Because there are no limits. We set the limits on ourselves.
But we're very blessed to be, this is the culture of a lot of countries where it's very hard
That's
to
right.
achieve, even if you have hungry people really trying to get into, to succeed. It's not accessible in a lot of different cultures. That's why you see immigrants coming here doing a lot of great things just because, they have the opportunities, they have the freedom to do it, and they can just, the more they work, the more they succeed.
So where did your faith come from? Was like, did somebody help you see that in yourself? Was it your belief in God? Like, where did kind of that faith come from that like to step out and do what you did? Did somebody help instill that? Was that just within you?
No, it's just within me. Like
Wow.
it's obvious. Like the dream of the American dream,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's known everywhere, and that's where you put your faith into it, and you just try to get it. But initially, for me, it was just I want to get my freedom back, more than succeeding or getting into business or any of that. I just needed to be free.
So where did your self-worth come from, though, to really feel like you were worth doing that and you could do it? Or were you scared the entire time?
Yeah, it was just scary.
Yeah,
it was just,
awesome.
it was
Yeah,
just
well,
hard.
yeah.
I needed to, it's like a bird. Just let it go
Yeah.
and be free. So that's where it came from.
I love that, and I love that you admit that, like, oh yeah, I was scared shitless, but I did it anyhow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then kind of like what Russ said, it's like, okay, you fell out of the nest. All right, didn't kill you. Keep going.
Yeah.
And now,
Try till you die.
yes. Well, I love the fact that Bishoy sort of had that internal barometer, which with you guys in the coaching thing. Now, do you find that is something like that you uncover in people? Like we all have it, but like there, where he sort of internally had the barometer and the engine already going, which I'm sure was probably a lot of circumstantial stuff as far as like, context of time and place. But like for you guys, do you find like that's also a learned behavior? Like you can learn to be able to have the drive, because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, where it was the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And I think the growth mindset can be learned because I have learned that now, but I only see it in hindsight.
Yeah.
So is that something you guys go for too, as far as getting folks into that abundance mindset, not to get like too woo-woo with it?
Well, you used the S word, so I'm going to. As a good coach or mentor in my book, you have to have a great bullshitometer.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
The be kind, it's really not that hard is not the same thing as you must also be passive because it's easier. You have to be able to call out, thank you for sharing that story. That was a cute story. Now let's go back to the question, why didn't you do this? And they have to take ownership in their own actions. We're there to coach and counsel and mentor and handhold and lift up and love and cry. But at the end of the day, it's their journey. They have to decide to take it.
Yeah, I think maybe you guys can validate it. I don't think you can really build that drive into someone if they're complacent to begin with. I don't think you can just fire up. I don't know. Have you seen that happen? Like, have you?
Yeah, I think we all need our fire stoked every once in a while,
Exactly.
right? We all have bad days where it's like, I think you just need a hug. You know what I mean? But like you said, that internal drive, I think for most of us is there.
Exactly.
But I love what you said, because I think it so goes back to, it's like that dance of care and candor. And it's like, instead of I love you, I don't want to hurt your feelings, it's like I love you enough to risk this relationship to say what I wish someone would say to me if I was in your shoes. And when you have somebody that loves you that much, that goes like, I love you enough to risk this because I care so much about you. And if I was you, I would want someone to tell me what they're seeing.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So and one of my mentors taught me that years ago was like, have the conversation with them that you're having in your head. So if you lay out your plan and I'm like, there's no way that's going to work, right? I actually owe it to you in a nice, loving way to go, here's why I'm having a hard time buying, whatever. Like I owe it to you to have that, you know what I mean? And so I just think that it's learning how to have that beautiful dance of care and candor. And I think what we do so well is, and I think you do it well in just a different way, is we see greatness in people. And it's like we love doing is exposing people to their own greatness. Right, and when when you can help them see what you see, and a mentor of mine taught me this years ago. I said, "How do you do such a good job speaking into people's lives?" And she said, "I see them as who they could be 3 years from now, and I talk to that person."
That's my next T-shirt.
And man,
Exposing people to their own
I love
greatness.
it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and then like you said, we give them the tools and the things to tap into that. But man, I'm sure I know I remember times when I've had mentors that looked at me and saw something in me that I did not know was there, and those were life-changing moments.
When I was trying to get that across to the guys last night at the intern dog and pony show, where it was, because I'm asking them, and I'm kind of giving them, hey, Studio USA, woo, and I'm kind of giving them the business on what it is that we do. But at the end of the day, it was like I wanted them to be excited about what we do, but then I also wanted them to know, like, I'm coming to y'all because y'all know enough right now to be dangerous, but I want to be able to teach you everything I know. So then in 18 months, you're better than me at all of it.
But listen to what you just said, though. In my mind, a successful coach or mentor is the one who's willing to be as vulnerable as you're asking them to be vulnerable with you.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the dog and pony show, that's much easier than standing up there being transparent about this is the business. It's not always easy. They don't see what's happening on the other side of that camera. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
So that transparency, you're saving yourself some trials and troubles down the line, too, from hiring someone that thinks it's glitz and glamour. It's not.
Yes. Well, and even like the guys that work for me now, like Cruz would tell you, I was like, dude, there comes a time when it's a job.
Has Cruz signed the he never gets to leave agreement? Yeah, because I would just like you to maybe sign that today.
It's implied.
He never. Okay, good. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind.
We'll get
He's
that
so
in
good.
writing.
Yeah, please.
But like that whole idea of, yes, there's the glitz and glamour in real estate and the coaching and all of that, because it's like you have the guys that are
Any workplace.
the guys that are 20 on the internet that I'm a life coach. Life? What?
Yeah.
But there is that. There's the public facing part, and then there's the thing, oh, they're in $1 million houses and they're doing all this fancy stuff, or ooh, look at the drone footage or whatever. Then it's like, yeah, there are days when it's like it takes everything just to get that 30 seconds worth of footage and then to get it out. And so do you find, I'm curious, because for me, at least 51% of the folks that I talk to have the wrong impression. So like, what do you think, like statistically for you guys, where it's like some of your deal is to bring people into reality? Where it's like the old fashioned thing, like if I was teaching a real estate class, it'd be like, oh yeah, there's like 100 people here that just got out of, they're oven fresh from Champions. Yeah. And it would be like, okay, 43 of y'all are going to be sacking groceries in 18 months,
Next week.
Yeah. Here's the script. You'll more fries. Yeah.
But they have that idea of, I'm going to go tell everybody this, and then magically contracts fall from the sky or whatever. So like, how much of your time is spent like just kind of getting people right sized versus?
I can give an example that just happened. Was in San Antonio. We just opened a new office down there, and we were doing goal building, and it was open to anyone, not just those on the mentorship level. And a lot of the newer people that come into our industry are bivocational. And a lot of people are going, no, we only want full-time. You have to be committed 100%. Goes back to what Bishoy said, that we don't know their life and what's going on at home. Some of them are hungry. Some of them do have responsibilities. But I was trying to instill into the room, you set your goals and you set your aspirations for success, and I like them to set their own. I'm not going to set someone else's level of success. Yeah. And there was a young lady sitting on the front row, and you could just see her eyes had no light whatsoever in them. So we talked about, okay, in your sphere building, and all of these things, how are you meeting people? How are you putting together your network? And I shared a story about a gentleman who doesn't have to work, but he works as a bartender at night at a bar at an airport, and he gets to meet everyone that's relocating to Dallas-Fort Worth, and he hears ahead of time what's going on. And all of a sudden, it was one of those where I had that aha moment. I turned and I stopped, and I looked at her. I said, okay, something just happened. Light finally came into your eyes.
That's awesome.
And she said, I have my first client, and I met her at the grocery store where I'm working. I said, so suddenly, that other job is the job. You have your career. just swap the vision. Stop calling that your career for now. You've taken on real estate as a career. That's the job in the avenue that's helping you meet the people.
I love
It's
that.
perspective.
So-
It's
Yes.
all perspective.
And they're, you know, I love that story just from the simple fact of you get them to just pivot
Yeah.
on what is internally their belief. And it's like, no, it's technically this. Yes, you go there, you know, you do a thing, they give you a check. But now you've realized, wait a minute, this is actually to be like really businessy about it or whatever. That's actually now part of your sales funnel.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, what about what? Like, I'm gonna put in overtime. You know, like now she's gonna run to be able to change her life based on you just changing her perspective.
And she's not buying Zillow leads. They're paying her to get clients.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and just even in my little world over the years where it's been, you know, okay, you'd go do stuff either for free or for, you know, like as a favor or whatever. And then I just learned that that's kind of like the price of admission is it's like, you know, you have to build skills and put skins on the wall. And then later on, you actually get hired to do stuff that you used to do for free. And yet there's no way, I can't give you a spreadsheet on like how many times it takes to do that or whatever. You have to have that willingness to, like for you guys on the suit up and show up thing, you know, I'm sure that all three, and like, he's now the king of like suit up and show up. Like, I'm like, bro, from the other side of the earth to here.
Yeah.
And now how long have you been in real estate?
End of 2019.
Okay, so like to have already made the cut for RP and to be yeah.
Rising star last month for North Fort Worth.
Right.
Good job. Thank
And
you. That's awesome.
and the fact that you got COVID in there, which was like ridiculous. So it's like,
Insane.
yeah, it's like, oh, you picked the perfect time
The
to just go
exact
meet people.
End of 2019, 3 months later, I mean, I had just gotten married, and my wife is here, and 3 months later, it was just COVID, you know, but the market was going crazy at the time, and you know, it was a very hard to tap into the market or to actually learn in that time because everything was shut down, everybody was scared. But we learned it in the very hardest time, so now it feels a little easier. But
Yes.
it just
The whole idea of are you a peacetime general or are you a wartime general? Because it's real easy to sit
Exactly.
back when everything's going good, you know. And like one of the things that I've always thought was, we get spoiled especially in North Texas. Like if we were just to bring it into the real estate world, where it's been a white hot market for 13 years,
Yes.
12, whatever. So you have all of these rock stars. And they think they're like Hall of Famers or whatever. And it's like, no, in the real world, you're not even like, you might be on the bench, maybe. And so like, how do you guys deal with like that, where it's like a diva situation?
My favorite things I wish I could have every one of my California clients do is go to like, Springfield, Minnesota or Missouri, whatever it is, and bang out 150 deals a year to get paid the same for the 2 they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's exposing them to they're like, I'm so busy, I have a deal. And I'm like, I love you. I just talked to Will, who's got 35, and he's gonna make $8.50
Yeah.
because his average sales price is $22,000. Whatever it is, right? So I think sometimes it's just exposing them to stuff, and like you said, calling them out on their BS. Like one of my clients, like, I'm so busy. It's like, cool. We tracked his time for a week. He was working like 13 hours maybe, and this guy, I was acting like he was and I was like, when you get to 60 hours, we'll talk. Like, what are we doing? So I think somebody's just exposing them to the reality, holding the mirror up.
So Russ, what's your diva policy?
Learn how to drive a stick.
Right on.
Just realize that diva thing is going to change tomorrow. And I've had a couple of going, right now I'm just riding the wave. Well, you do realize that sometimes waves die.
Yeah.
The
That's why
further
they're
out
waves.
you go, the further you have to paddle back to start over.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I always try to, here's a mirror, look close. Do you really like what you see? And do you look like a diva when you see it?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, and the reason I ask that is I was raised in the world of straight commission sales, and production covers a multitude of sins.
Yes, it does.
As far as any kind of bullpen or situation like that. And so that's what I knew. And so I loved like being a mortgage guy, and it was the bullpen, and it's like, you got a deal, you ring the bell, and it was like some Wolf of Wall Street stuff. where I look back and it was just insane, and it was just, you know, kind of ridiculous. And then from like a practical business standpoint, it was like a clown car. It was just, this is not.
But diva society, you've learned how to walk up and ring the bell even when you've done absolutely nothing. So, you know, they've got to focus on themselves, which sometimes it doesn't, I don't ever want to puncture their balloon. It's okay to see yourself as successful if you have met that goal for yourself. But you have to realize sharing that so openly doesn't always make everyone else feel good.
Right. And for me, I didn't realize how hollow that was. You know, I'm in my mid-30s or whatever, and it's like, I love this thing where it's like a locker room and there's no HR, and it's just like, you know, and it's just a Shark Tank and there's blood in the water, you know. And then on our Monday morning sales meetings, you were either getting MF'd or you were just left alone.
Right.
There was no middle ground. So that was like my template for team building, where it was like, no matter what you're doing, if you're not doing exactly what you're supposed to do in this moment in time, you're getting checked into the boards and you're just getting blasted. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I don't know what was up with me in that moment where I loved it. Yeah. But I think it ended up making me realize that everybody there hated it. Yeah. You know? And as I look back and it's like, man, there wasn't anybody there that was happy.
You brought it back to good culture. Yeah. On the tribe building perspective, if you surround yourself with people that have the same culture, the same drive, the same desires, and one of those desires being to see you as successful as I may perceive myself to be, I don't have to worry about somebody else wanting to, on Monday morning, knock the peers out from underneath me so I fall. I'm surrounded with people who are going, now how do we get to the next one together as a tribe? So that's why I really, really, really push, surround yourself with a tribe of the same culture.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's a pretty good place to wrap.
It's good. Yep.
And this was awesome. And thank you guys. And like I said, I love the fact, the vibe we have now, where it is that sort of rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah. You know? And I came in that the hard way. Yeah. But I'm glad I got there. Yep. And so thanks, guys.
Yeah. We're thankful for where you are and that you have this. Thank you for having
and I think it was cool. One last thing about what you guys said, and I'd love your quick take on this, is just how do you find great people? And I think one of the things I would challenge everybody to do if you're watching this is like write out some of the people you're looking to bring into your life. And it's amazing how the universe will kind of bring them. Like get clear on who you're looking for. And like you said, when you meet them, like give yourself permission to go like, what was your childhood like? Yep. What was like? Give yourself permission to go deep, but they're there.
Well, do that. Yeah. So I asked Russ earlier, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm really wanting to do a Monday morning show as well, like Monday morning mastermind or so, just some sort of alliterative, silliness." But I was like, "Hey, think of or just like try to put on the back burner, like if you knew somebody that would be a good like another Wayne that could commit to coming in on Monday mornings, and it's like." My first thought the other day was Corey Turner from Alamo Title. Yeah. And I texted him, but it was like, I was like, hey, dude, I don't know if you'd be into driving, every Monday from South Lake or whatever. And it's like, that's a big ask. Yeah. But I said, if you know somebody, throw them my way. Or if you're down to do that, you're invited. Right. So that's my little how I would try to find good people. Yeah. I would ask good people.
Yeah. Yeah. And get more intentional about it. Too many of us are trying to just wait on our own. Yeah. Yep.
Right on.
Teamwork.
There you go.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right. That's about it.
Ciao.